That's Jefferson. Climbs the ladder. Oh, my goodness.
Welcome one, welcome all. I am very, very excited because this Saturday, we don't get preseason football. We don't get XFL. No offense, Bruce. No, we get real American football. College football is back this weekend. We're so excited to break down. Basically, we're going to go over the conferences here, go by the Power 5 conferences and any other teams that we might miss. We're also going to go over our Heisman picks and then even our playoff series and our favorite bets of the season. So it should be a great time, as you guys know or may know. We have three of the best college football minds in the business here. We got third and schlong, Bryce Morrow, who recently joined the team as well. He's really going to help us improve. He's one of the best DFS players in the business. We got my guy Snyder as well, who's been absolutely crushing our PGA content and as always crushes the CFB streets as well. And he's got a sleeper team. Not really a sleeper, but I was very surprised to hear his top team this year. And my guy Bruce, who I've known for several years, who is I have to say it, Bruce. You're one of the brightest minds in the entire industry for college football, and I take your word like gospel. JSU called me out on it today. JSU's been all over Zay Flowers, and I was talking about it. I'm like, well, Bruce is high on Zay Flowers. That means I'm high on Zay Flowers, and JSU got all offended. He says I take your word over his and stuff, but it's true. I got three of the best minds here. We'll go ahead and get into some conference talks, but first, I want to hear how you're doing, Bruce. I've known you the longest. So how have you been, man? And how excited are you?
Good. Just been working, grinding the other job, and getting ready for this week. Solid week 0 games, and just kind of following up on the other teams that are going to play in week 1.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I know that this week we have our bet of the season that you'll get to a little later on, so it should be fun. Snyder, how's it been going with you?
It's going well, man. Excited for some football back in our lives here this weekend with the CFB streets, and then the NFL will be leading up as well. Been great. Bruce has been crushing the projections of the NFL preseason, so that's been fun. I'm looking forward to getting into this with you guys.
Absolutely. And Bryce, man, how's it been at RPS for the last couple months, man? I know we're all excited for football season.
It's been great being here, to be honest. I haven't been doing quite as much content as we're going to see going forward. I got 5 shows a week during football season. Football is probably my biggest sport. It definitely is in terms of volume. So, we're going to be grinding cash. We're going to be grinding tournaments, NFL, college football. Going to be on pretty much every piece of cash content that we have for NFL. So that's super exciting. Got the FanDuel or MLB final this weekend. So I've been, grinding a bit in MLB and trying to stay up to date with everything. The final's Sunday, but we got football Saturday. So, even if, it would be great to hit college football Saturday. So then you're kind of free rolling your exposure on the final on Sunday. But yeah, I'm super excited to be here. I'm super excited for what we have planned in terms of projections, in terms of content, and it's going to be a print fest this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a ton of info coming up for this weekend here and the entire season as well. Code NFL20. It's active for about 6 more days, y'all, and then it drops down to 17%. NFL20, 20% off for life. Get access to all our CFB playbook. We got Discord. We basically got projections. We got the whole bundle of CFB. And obviously, I love this team. I love talking college football with y'all. And we'll go ahead and dive into our season preview. For anyone looking for week 0 preview, we will have that up on the site a little later on. I'm not sure if it's premium or free. Forgive me for not knowing, but it'll definitely be something that we cover here a little later on in the week. But for now, we're going to be talking some SEC football, home of the national champs, and a current SEC structure that is definitely going to be rearranged next year, obviously. This is the last year of all these conferences basically having their traditional sense. I know that it hasn't been too traditional with some movements lately, but it's going to be an interesting overhaul of this conference. And obviously we have a clear 1-2, in my opinion, with Georgia and Alabama. Bruce, I'll go to you first. How do you see Georgia's offense? Obviously they lost Stetson Bennett. They lost A.D. Mitchell. They lost a little bit of talent in the offensive front. Do you think they have the chance to repeat, or can Alabama kind of make some noise too?
Yeah, I think the main theme with the SEC this year is the run games because of all these teams losing their quarterbacks. Well-established quarterbacks like Stetson Bennett and Bryce Young, among others. You should see a lot of the teams run the football a lot more, in my opinion. Even LSU, I mean, they have a good receiver in Malik Neighbors, but they don't have much else. They have Jalen Daniels, who runs the football better than he throws it. And, Alabama, if they go with Milroe, they're going to be running the football a lot with him as well. Georgia with Carson Beck in there, I think they lean on the run early as well. So I really like Bama, though. I think their line is solid. Their defense is solid. They're going to have a tough time with Texas in the second game of the year, but the rest, I think the SEC is wide open. They have a chance to win it this year.
Yeah, it's interesting. Obviously, we have is it Tyler Buchner, and then obviously Jalen Milroe. I mean, both their Heisman odds are really long, and I was very shocked to see that. But obviously, it's a battle. It's kind of similar. We kind of have a theme of quarterback battles here across some top teams. And Snyder, what do you think this Georgia-Alabama? Do you think LSU can make some noise? And any other teams in the SEC that you want to touch on?
It'll be interesting to see if LSU can make that leap into the discussion with Alabama and Georgia, how it's been the last couple of years. Georgia's running for that elusive three-peat, which we haven't seen for quite a while. Nebraska had a shot at that back in the day, back in the 90s, but looking forward to this. So I think I think Saban's been a lot more quiet than he's usually been. Like I think Alabama, I think he knows he has a really good team this year, and it all comes down to the quarterback there for them. They also got in a stud running back, Justice Hayes. He had 3 touchdowns in the spring game, which you can take from that what you want. Caleb Downs is coming to shore up the secondary there as well. They've got just a loaded secondary. The defense is one of the best in the country. I think they're going to rival a team I'll talk about later in a different conference for the best defense in the country. But, it's Nick Saban. It's hard to bet against him, and it's hard to bet against Kirby Smart there as well. They got Lovett from Mizzou, a receiver transferred in there, had just north of 800 yards receiving at Missouri last year. Brock Bowers, Heisman candidate. Can he finally make the leap to I think he'll at least get invited to New York. I don't think he'll win, though. It's a kind of a QB award, though. But I think it's going to be right there with Alabama and Georgia there at the end. Tennessee lost a lot. They only have 11 returning starters. They lost Hendon Hooker, Hyatt, and Tillman. They have a really tough schedule there, too. I think they play like Bama, Kentucky back-to-back, and then they have Georgia at the end of the year as well. So I think it could be a little bit of a down step from them compared to where they were last year. But I think Alabama's going to come through and win the conference this year, take it over from Kirby.
Yeah, I mean, that's like huge. I mean, we talked about Jaden Daniels, that Tennessee transition. Obviously, that offense is just going through an absolute teardown, basically. We're losing Hendon Hooker, Jalen Hyatt, Cedric Tillman. I mean, that transition is really going to be tough. But obviously, Bryce, we talked about some of these top teams. Do you think, is it Georgia's conference to lose, or do you think any of these other teams can make some noise? And any of the fringe top 25 teams you want to talk about?
I would say that it's definitely Georgia's conference to lose. I don't want to understate how losing Monken and Stenson is going to hurt them. I mean, Carson Beck is I think he's going to be pretty good, but I think Monken was one of the sharpest minds in the games, and they paid him for a reason. So I do think that hurts them. What's helping them is that their side of the conference is exponentially worse than the other side. They're pretty much a lock to win their side of the conference. So it's kind of hard to bet against them in that sense, in that they're pretty much a lock to make the conference championship game. The other side of the conference is just very strong. I mean, LSU could be better this year. Jaden Daniels is the second Heisman favorite. I'm not quite as high on LSU as some of these other teams. I do kind of think A&M has a bounce back year. I think their defense is, going very under the radar. I do like your guys' Bama takes. I think it's kind of those teams are the top 3 along with Georgia, and then it's kind of everyone else. If there is a team that I like on the other side to come in second to Georgia, it would probably be Kentucky. I don't love it, but that's probably my take. That's why, if you look at the odds to win the conference championship game, it is Georgia minus 110. So that's basically saying they're going to be slightly better than even money against anybody they play from the other side in the championship game, because it's priced in, but there's just a maybe 5% chance they don't win their side of the conference.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be really hard to knock off, especially that side. I know we got Jay Ruff and Arkansas fans saying going undefeated, woo pig suey. Hey, I gotta love it. Of course, woo pig suey is definitely one of the best catchphrases in college football. There's a team that we haven't mentioned yet that I know, Bruce, you hyped it up in our Discord, and I'm actually heading to Ohio tonight that I will be able to lay down the season-long bet. Bruce, talk to me a little bit about Vandy.
So yeah, I like the over on the team total. That's my best bet of the early season so far. I know I got it it's pretty bad. I got it minus 168. I think it's trending to over 4 at this point. But yeah, their beginning schedule is pretty bad. And I like them as a football team. I like Clark Lee as their coach. AJ Swan at quarterback is just is a good player. Their defense is solid, and they have a good receiving core. I think they kill Hawaii this week. Even though I love Hawaii, I love watching them play, just because they love to fight. But I think they run off 4 wins to start the year. Even if they don't get that 4th against Wake Forest, that's probably their toughest game. They do have South Carolina, who I think is really down this year, and especially on defense. I think they lost everybody on defense, and they were already bad last year. So I think there's at least 4 wins, maybe 5 there. I think it's much too low, and we see a big week 0 victory over Hawaii.
Yeah, I mean, I know that you also were talking about, you gave into our bets chat here. We have a new and improved bets picks channel here on our Discord as well as on our site. NFL 20, get 20% off for life as long as your subscription remains active. I'll go ahead and give this one away because I'm going to bet it tonight. And I know that we're talking college football week 0, it's going to wait, but Vandy minus 17.5. I mean, that's tasty. I can't wait to lay some money on it. Snyder, who is your bet of the conference? And do you have a favorite over-under on the season potentially?
I didn't find over-under that I really liked that I'm actually going to bet besides the Vandy one. I think you guys talked me onto the Vandy one. I was kind of him and hawing about that, but I definitely like the points you guys brought up for that, so I'd probably piggyback you guys on the Vandy one. I didn't see anything that I really loved from the conference win total standpoint, but I can roll with you guys with the Vandy one.
That's the best part. Any other potential dark horses for Heisman from this conference or anything? I know you mentioned Brock Bowers. That's a surprising one, of course, because we all know the talent he's got. He is the best tight end in college football right now.
Yeah, I guess I kind of completely glossed over potentially one of the best running backs in the country here from Ole Miss, Quinshon Judkins. I think he's a guy that can be right there in New York as well. He averaged 131 yards per game last year in SEC play. He's definitely got that boom bust upside. He won us a lot of money last year playing him in DFS, so I'll be going right back to him a lot, I'm guessing, this year in DFS. I think he's a good guy. And then Kentucky did get Devin Leary there as a transfer quarterback. I think that's going to be a huge boost for them this year as well.
Yeah, O'Leary, that's going to be interesting. Obviously, as someone who lives in Kentucky and stuff, it feels like there's not as much buzz as last year, of course. Last year, there was that amazing start that happened, and Will Levis kind of got hurt and obviously didn't really live up to that potential. But O'Leary does have a little bit of buzz coming in. I do wonder if they can kind of contend a little bit in that, in that tough side, the weak side of the SEC, I should say. But obviously, I don't think they're going to contend with Georgia at all. Bryce, anything you have a best bet for from this conference, the SEC?
Yeah. I like Kentucky over 7.5 wins at plus money. They have an insanely weak out of conference schedule. The first 3 weeks of the season, they play Ball State, Eastern Kentucky, and Akron. So if you can get some conference wins in there, I think they can beat Vanderbilt. I think Florida's going to be way down. Georgia's a loss. I'm not really scared of any other team. They do have to play Bama. But, yeah, I mean, every other game there is more. I think 7.5 is simply too low. They're not a bad team. And I like Leary. It really.
Perfect. 7.5 wins on Kentucky there. We kind of lost you a little bit. I think we'll get you back with the other AirPod in. That'll be good. Perfect. Over 7.5 Kentucky, over 3.5 Vanderbilt, and even a little bit of a Heisman dark horse with Judkins or Browers. Is that right, Snyder? That should be intriguing. I know Judkins, we played him a lot in DFS last year, and I definitely had a good time. So, yeah, that's it for the SEC. If you guys want to see a specific team mentioned, go ahead and put it into the comments. We might be able to touch on that a little bit later. Right now, I want to jump into the Big Ten because it has the best team in college football, Ohio State. Oh, I'm just kidding. Maybe that QB battle with Kyle McCord, that's going to be a little bit of a challenge. I don't like the fact that Ohio State is coming into the season with a quarterback battle. I always thought it was McCord's to lose, but it does show. I mean, maybe is McCord better than expected or is he worse than expected? Bruce, you might be a little bit more plugged in on that situation, but how do you see Ohio State's quarterback battle going? And do you think that Michigan's the better team?
Yeah, I think Brown probably has more upside, and that's what they see as well. McCord's kind of, he's been there. He's played behind C.J. Stroud, so he's been there, seen everything, and I just kind of think that Brown has more upside as a runner, and they like him a lot. They kind of said that if Brown. If Brown's kind of even with him, they'll just go with McCord because he has experience. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. But I like Michigan anyway. They return everything on the offensive line. They bring back one of the best running backs in football, and Blake Corum, and they also have Donovan Edwards there as well. And they bring their quarterback back as well. So I like Michigan and their returners. I just think they're the best team in the conference. I know Snyder's going to tell me otherwise, but I like Michigan a lot.
Well, I'll go right back to you here just because I want the JJ McCarthy hype that I've seen. I've seen some NFL analysts or something like that say, "Oh, JJ McCarthy could be better than Caleb Williams," and I'm sitting here, I'm like, "There's no way." Then I also heard a little bit with Corum, potentially a Heisman dark horse, and I'm sitting there like, do you think Donovan Edwards could interfere a little bit too much to win the Heisman for Corum?
Yeah, that's possible. They both played quite a bit last year, and that's definitely possible. The coach doesn't really care. Harbaugh doesn't really care, about Heisman winners there. So you can play both of them. I do like JJ McCarthy a lot. I like that they made the change away from the guy that's at Iowa now. I can't remember his name, but McCarthy has more upside than that guy. So. I love the switch, and I thought he looked good in the playoff game as well, especially against TCU.
Yeah, 100%. And Snyder, you have the dark horse. I'll call it a dark horse. They might be a top 10 team, but they're not Ohio State or Michigan. That's the chalk talk. And obviously, it is Penn State, and you gave me a good reason on why. And they also might have one of the best running backs in college football, right? Penn State.
Yeah, definitely. They've got a pair running backs there. I think Nick Singleton's really going to break off this year as well. You look at Singleton and Allen, what they did last year. They combined for nearly 2,000 yards rushing last year and 22 touchdowns. I really like what Franklin's done, getting in a couple coordinators here, some elite coordinators, and Mike Urich, who got everything and more out of Clifford last year. I was very pleased to see what he did with Clifford last year. Now he gets a 5-star QB and Drew Aller in there, which I think the ceiling for him is uncapped. I think he's got the ability to take them forward here. I know they lost some receivers and such, but they did bring in Dante Cephas, transfer. He had nearly 1,000 yards last year at Kent State. I think that's really going to help him out. And then Manny Diaz is one of the best defensive coordinators in the game. I mean, he's not the greatest head coach, which panned out there, but I think he's a great defensive coordinator. He's got that high-pressure defense. And I think Penn State is going to battle Alabama for the toughest defense or best defense in the country there. So I'm extremely bullish on Penn State this year in all the markets, win totals to make the playoffs and to win the national title even at 25-1, which I got about a month ago or so.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing. I mean, obviously they go through Ohio State and Michigan in the same schedule. I mean, there's a chance where, I mean, if they just split the pins there, they might be able to represent in the title game. And, obviously not having to face Ohio State or Michigan in the title game would greatly improve their chances of making the playoffs. So I do like that. I think, obviously, the best part about that is they host Michigan. I think that is definitely the harder of the two matchups between Ohio State and Michigan. I'm not I love Ohio State. I do love Marvin Harrison Jr. and all them, but I'm not really convinced just yet this year. Bryce, what about you? Are you on any of the top 3 teams here in the conference? Are you on an upset potentially with Penn State, or are you more on the Michigan-Ohio State side?
I'm kind of on the train that they'll have 2 teams in the college football playoff. I kind of think there's a ton of paths to that happening. The team who makes the championship game probably gets in, assuming they don't lose, and even if they lose, there's still a chance. And then the second best team there probably gets in, I would think. It's probably them or the SEC getting 2 teams in, I would assume. I think the ACC gets 1, and then I would assume that USC would make it as well. Is kind of how I have that figured out. So I don't mind any of these teams. Michigan's my favorite of the 3. I'm a slight Penn State homer. Both my parents went there. I went to a Division III school, so I don't really root for them. But once again, I'm going to play the bad side of the conference. My dark horse is Wisconsin. I think Tanner Mordecai transferring in will really transform that offense. They're really tough to beat at home. And, if you look at their side of the conference, it's just simply not that strong. Northwestern's going to be god-awful. Purdue's going to be very bad. They lost basically their entire offense. I don't like Nebraska, Illinois, Minnesota, Iowa. Iowa's defensive tackle just got suspended for gambling. I think they win that side of the conference, so I think that's a good bet. You can bet that. You can bet their win total. You can even bet them to upset one of the top 3 in the championship game, which likely doesn't happen, but it's plus 1,000. So Wisconsin's my favorite underdog team in the Big Ten, and then I would probably take Michigan in the Big 3.
Yeah, I like Luke Fickell. I think he did a great job at the University of Cincinnati, and now that he's there at Wisconsin, I do expect big things, especially being on the weaker side of the Big Ten. I think that's going to bode well for Wisconsin moving forward. So hopefully they can get some wins. I mean, obviously, Iowa's offensive struggles is something I want to highlight. Last year, it was awful. Bruce, are they going to get any better offensively, or should I just prepare to gouge my eyes out every time they're on TV?
Yeah, I think they have to be better. Their coaching staff may be on the hot seat for the 20th consecutive year or whatever it is. But yeah, they did some good things in the transfer portal and brought guys in. Cade McNamara from Michigan, he has been a little banged up, and I don't know if he's practicing yet, but that's a good pickup. They also brought their tight end in as well. Also a couple wide receivers out from elsewhere. But yeah, it's always been bad, so I expect it to be bad again. It's just a broken record every year. It's tough to watch for sure. At least, their defense has always been solid, always keeps them in games, but that offense is just tough to watch.
Yeah, no kidding. And Snyder, I got to go to Nebraska for you. All right. Is there any reason to be hopeful on Nebraska?
I think it's pretty slim pickings here in Lincoln this year. I actually like the under on Nebraska win totals. You can get 6.5. You can get plus money on the 6. I think there's a pretty high outcome if they win 6 games, but I think there's a very, very low outcome. They win 7 games this year. Matt Rule, as he generally comes into his new schools, he really focuses more on getting the foundation set up than winning games in his first years. I think he's like 3-22 or something as a first-year head coach of his former 2 stops before that. So I don't really expect much from Nebraska here this year. I do like the Wisconsin call there, though, for sure, that Bryce had there. Tanner Mordecai is coming in with that new coach, new scheme, higher tempo here, kind of offset the Braylon Allen rushing attack. So I'm excited to see how that's going to work out there with the more of a aired out scheme there in Wisconsin that we've never really seen from them. But I think Wisconsin's right there. I think Wisconsin's definitely the favorite to win the other side opposed to the Big 3.
All right, perfect. We'll go ahead and get into our best bets of the conference. Bryce, I'll start with you. What is your favorite bet of the Big 10?
I'm going to go Wisconsin over 8.5 wins. And if you're really feeling risky, you can bet them to win the conference at plus 1,000. Sticking with Wisconsin.
Perfect. Bruce, what about you? Favorite bet of the Big 10?
I like Michigan over 10.5. That's a big number, but the schedule is weak. They start off with East Carolina, UNLV, Bowling Green, and Rutgers. They do go to Penn State. They get Ohio State at home. and the rest of the schedule: Purdue, Indiana, Maryland. It's pretty easy in my opinion. I think they may go undefeated here. The only tough game, like I said, is Penn State on the road. So yeah, that's my best bet.
The only tough game is Penn State on the road. I'm offended, Bruce. You just need them to split the pins basically against Penn State or Ohio State. I love it. Snyder, what is your favorite bet of the Big Ten?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Nebraska under 6 wins. I like under 6 better than -6, under 6.5, just because the juice, you get plus money on the 6. So I like Nebraska under 6 at plus 130. I think you're basically free rolling to the plus 130 there, because I don't see them winning 7. They're kind of already setting the tone where this is a rebuild and we're not really looking for much there. They're kind of leaking some stuff out there, so I don't think there's too much there. I also do like Penn State to make the playoffs, so at 4-1. I have that as well, just as my shot there. If they can split the 2 games, I think they could get in even without winning the conference, if they can have every win besides one of those 2, and it's close.
Perfect. I love it. A Nebraska homer pick in the opposite direction. I got to love it. And now we'll go ahead and move on to the Big 12. I mean, there's only one team we can start with, and that is Texas Hook'em Longhorns. And, you know, there's a lot of Quinn Ewers hype. I forget how to pronounce the last name, Bruce. I apologize. But this is going to be a team that you did a preview video on, that we have it on TikTok and Instagram and everything there. So if you guys want to check out, it's just a small DFS preview from Bruce, about 60 seconds long. But I was very happy to hear A.D. Mitchell make a return, or not make a return, transfer over to Texas. We also have Xavier Worthy, who should be in line for a really good season, an improved offensive line. Bruce, sell me on Texas. Are they a playoff contender this year?
I think the receivers are the receiving group is probably top 2 in the country with Ohio State. I think the offense should be solid. Defense is going to be good. Offensive line is a strength for sure. The conference is going to be down as a whole, in my opinion. Just Kansas State, Oklahoma probably up there. Those 2 schools are going to be tough, but I really like Texas this year. I think maybe this is finally the year. I've been hoping for it for a long time, but I think this is the time that Texas is finally back, hopefully.
Texas is back. You heard it here first. I mean, this is going to be a fun season. I mean, I look at this Big 12 conference, right? And I was just, doing it out the blue. Obviously, I don't know as much as you guys, but I don't see a team that can contend with Texas. TCU was very lucky last year. It felt to make it to the playoff and ended up winning a game. They proved everyone wrong, I felt like. But without Dugan, Johnston, and the talented running back Kendra Miller, and this is going to be a team that's going through a lot of change. Kansas State, no Deuce Vaughn. Here, Snyder, I do want you to sell me on Kansas State because I've heard good things about them. But someone who doesn't know a ton about their background and stuff, do you think that Kansas State could potentially vie for top of the Big 12?
I'm not really that high on Kansas State this year. I'm more so on Texas with Bruce, but K-State's going to be right there. They got Will Howard back this year, and they got Trayshawn Ward transferred from FSU in there as well. Had over 600 yards rushing last year. I think they're going to be fine. They're going to have an elite offensive line again, though. I think for K-State, they're going to be solid again. But I'm really on Texas as well for this conference, just like Bruce. Quinn Ewers is back. If his downfield passing has improved, I think it's untapped for what he can do here as well. They got Xavier Worthy there, the transfer of Mitchell coming in. They got some defense sheared up there. I think Texas actually has like a legit SEC caliber team that Sarkisian's assembled over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be interesting. Obviously, there's a few top 20 teams here overall, right? We have, obviously, Oklahoma, Kansas State, TCU, and Texas right now. And then it's kind of a drop-off. But I'm kind of excited for Dylan Gabriel. I mean, last year, I remember watching Oklahoma, and he busted out like a 74-yard touchdown run. And it made my heart happy because, obviously, I played him. But Oklahoma just seems to me like, I don't know. Do they piece it together the whole time and stuff? I mean, is there anyone to get excited for Texas Tech? And I do have to mention Kansas, the over 2.5 that hit last year. That was Bruce's bet of the season. The most electric bet of all time when it hits in the first 3 weeks. But you got to love it. Bryce, I'll go to you here. Talk a little bit more about Oklahoma, and then if you have any takes about Texas Tech or anything like that. You're on mute. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Sorry, my dog was barking in the background. I think a Brett Venables coach defense can't be as bad as it was the previous season. It's kind of my Oklahoma take. I've always kind of been a Dylan Gabriel truther, so I do like Oklahoma a bit. It is hard to bet against Texas here. The conference is super down. The only way I think they send someone is if Texas runs the table, which they could do. So, Big 12 is. I think these teams were incredibly lucky last year. TCU was probably the luckiest team of all time. Kansas sucked, in my opinion, too. Daniels was kind of fun in DFS, but that was about it. I'm with Bruce on Texas. I do like Oklahoma, but I think Texas gets it done here. I would probably, as my best bet, I think Texas is even money to win the conference championship game. I think that's a very solid bet.
Love it. I'm looking at it right now. Obviously, Texas is going to be a slight dog in week 2 against Alabama. I think, we're talking here otter on the over, talking about value on Texas. I think week 2, week 1 is one of these years where, they should pop. You would think, with the amount of talent that they have. That game's going to be interesting because obviously Bama is going to be someone who would want to vie for that second playoff spot. And hey, look at our win over Texas if it comes down to it, right? So I think that game carries the utmost important. Obviously, they lost by 1 last year with Ewers getting hurt there. So hopefully, I like Texas a lot. So that should be very interesting. Nothing else I really needed to go over here. I do think TCU is one of those where they're completely ranked out of respect to what they did last year rather than what we can expect this year. So I was really shocked to see them ranked because – sure, they did very good. I'm happy that they got runners up, but this team lost so much talent. I don't get how they were ranked at all, but maybe I'm wrong. But we'll go into our best bets of the conference. Bruce, what's your favorite bet for the Big 12?
I like Texas Tech over 7.5. I think they're my surprise team this year. I think they beat Oregon week 2. That's one of the upsets I'll be on when that second week comes around. They have a pretty weak schedule. They go to West Virginia. They get Kansas State at home. They do have to go to Baylor. They do get TCU at home. They get UCF at home, and then they have to go to Texas. I think they can get 10 wins here, in my opinion. So I do like Texas Tech to break out this year.
Awesome. Texas Tech over 7.5. Snyder, well, who is your favorite bet of the conference?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Texas over 9.5 wins. I think that they'll get to 10 pretty easily. If they beat Alabama, it could go even better. I think that's going to be a great matchup again down in Tuscaloosa this time. But I think they're going to definitely go over the 9.5 wins.
Love it. Bryce, what is your bet of the Big 12?
Texas to win the conference plus 100.
Awesome. We're staying in the state of Texas as the Big 12 should be. We don't want to go into the Oklahoma waters. And we'll now go on to the ACC. And we also have basically a national championship bet in this 4-man booth. And that it belongs to Bryce. Bryce, sell me on Florida State.
So Wakey, well-known college DFS player, kind of talked me into this one. But we bet them 30-1. I think they're down to 22-1, which is still fair. I still think it's below fair value, simply because I don't think Clemson's going to be as good this year. Florida State utilized the transfer portal about as anyone in the country. Jordan Travis, if he can stay healthy, is as good as any quarterback in the country. And they do have an elite out-of-conference schedule. So they have outs. Say they beat LSU week 1 and they managed to lose to Clemson, or at least split with Clemson once in the regular season and once losing. They have outs to get into there simply based on the out-of-conference schedule. So, if they lose to LSU, they can win and still get in. If they beat LSU, then even if they don't win the conference and run the table, they can still get in. So I think that's kind of our thinking behind it. And that's my take. This conference is really bad overall. It's them and Clemson, I think. So, we placed the bet a while ago, but yeah, it got bet down after that and I still think it's a solid bet.
Yeah, perfect. I mean, the 30-1 for Florida State, I mean, it does look good, and especially with Jordan Travis, he's a top 5 Heisman candidate. That game last year between LSU and Florida State was by far the most, I would say, exciting game, not like offensively or any purposes, but I do remember sitting there watching and how LSU basically came all the way back, missed 2-point conversion. Just an absolute mess of a game, but it's one that you got to love. So, well, you see the rematch here. Is that week 1, I believe you said?
Yeah.
So that would be a lot of fun.
I think it's the 3rd.
Perfect. So
it's on next week's slate of games. So that's like the featured game week 1.
Perfect. Just like last year too. So that'll be a lot of fun to watch. Bruce, do you have any hope for Clemson potentially, being the best team in the conference? Obviously, the quarterback situation last year was a mess. So Cade Klubnik's going to come in and kind of command this quarterback room. Is that good enough to make Clemson, a top team again?
Yeah, I'm with Bryce as well. I like Florida State. They just return too much. I think returning production, they're like top in the country. Return 94% of their defensive starters, and their defense was solid last year. Jordan Travis is too good. I do like Klubnik a lot. He is from Texas as well, and he's a good player. I think he's can run the football a little bit, kind of sneakily, and throws the ball really well. So I do like Clemson, but I do have Florida State winning the conference as well. With actually like Duke to be a surprise team this year. I'll get to that when we get to our best bets.
All right, I love it. And I'm also we're going to be the ACC is going to look a little bit different, especially on these early night slates and stuff. Without Malik Cunningham, the absolute DFS goat for Louisville. Snyder, are you on the Florida State wagon as well against Clemson, and any other teams that you want to talk about? I mean, I do want to mention that Drake May. We haven't mentioned him yet.
I think I'm right there with those guys. I think it's FSU and Clemson up top. To add a little bit to the FSU deal there, they've got all that returning production coming back, and they even get in Keon Coleman, a big play threat from Michigan State, who had 5 touchdowns of 25 yards or further last year. So I think that's a big boost for them too. I really like Jordan Travis, if he can stay healthy, like Bryce said. They came off of a season where they averaged 36.1 points per game. I think they're going to definitely have that offense rolling again this year. With Clemson, they got Jordan Shipley coming back. He kind of has been manning that offense there, 1,700 all-purpose yards last year. They got Antonio Williams and Bo Collins coming back too. I just don't think Clemson has the horses to match up with FSU as much this year. But they're in North Carolina as well with Drake May there. He's got a couple 2 receivers coming in. They got a couple transfers coming in there with Nate McCollum and Tez Walker. Tez Walker comes from Kent State. He had nearly 1,000 yards last year, so that should help Drake May for sure. I just don't think North Carolina has the horses there. NC State is bringing in Brendan Armstrong this year. He's from Virginia. He had like 9,000 plus, I think over 9,000 yards total from there. Had like 70, 80 touchdowns there combined, rushing and throwing. Miami, they got Tyler Van Dyke fully healthy. They got a great offensive line. I just don't think they have what it takes either. I think Florida State's going to finally win this conference again for a while.
Awesome. Yeah, that's fun to hear that Brendan Armstrong, obviously he's more of a DFS guy rather than a good quarterback, but he definitely runs the ball quite a bit for us. So I'm glad to hear that.
They also bring in his old offensive coordinator from North Carolina State from when he was good.
Oh, there we go.
Not last year when he was terrible, but he moved to Syracuse for a year, and now he's back at NC State. So he could be fun again. We could have fun playing him in DFS.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that Brendan Armstrong could be fun again. I mean, I'll tell you this. We just had a brief mention about Drake May and stuff. Is he better than Caleb Williams? I had that question pinned up, and we're going to talk about Caleb Williams the next conference. I mean, it's both projected top 5 picks. Am I delusional to think that Caleb Williams is worse than Drake May? I'll kick that to you, Bruce.
No, I think Caleb Williams is better, but Drake May is more fun to watch in my opinion, just because he's I don't know, just like a gunslinger, and just especially on those in the ACC where not a whole lot of defenses played. It's fun. I think Caleb Williams is the better all-around quarterback. Will be the better pro, but Drake May is fun to watch.
Awesome. And one thing that I do want to mention, and Bryce, I'll kick it to you here. So obviously the Notre Dame ACC connection's real. Who knows if they join the conference next year or whatever, how that looks. But we got to talk about Notre Dame with how many ACC opponents they play. So Sam Hartman obviously transfers in from Wake Forest to join this Notre Dame team where, injuries kind of plagued them last year. They gave Ohio State a tough fight in the first game, but ultimately they did the typical Notre Dame thing, and that was disappointing. Bryce, do you see any hope for Notre Dame this year at all?
I do. I liked them week 1, minus 20.5, actually. I think Navy adjusting to finally stepping into the modern age. I've always been a Sam Hartman guy. So that's one of the first bets. I think it was my first bet of the season that we placed this week, not including the Florida State future I had from a while ago. So, yeah, I do like Notre Dame.
Perfect. Well, that makes me very happy to hear. As like I said, I'm heading to Ohio here very shortly. Snyder, I'll start with you on the bets of the conference. What's your bet of the ACC?
I'm going to go with just Florida State to make the playoffs. I think I'm going to go with that at plus 320. I think that's pretty good odds, and they have a pretty good path to getting there if they can either beat.
You can get plus 400 on that on FanDuel, by the way.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
even better.
Perfect. And
Bryce, I was looking at
your
the odds.
bet too?
I bet it right now too. It's my best bet as well.
Perfect. Awesome. So we got a double.
Not to interrupt
FSU.
you. Sorry. It was
Oh, you're good.
A double FSU to make the playoff. I love it. Is it going to be a trio, Bruce?
No, I like Duke over 6.5. I think it is.
Yeah.
Mike Elko is just a great coach. They have a really favorable schedule. I think they start with Clemson, which is rough, but then they have Lafayette, Northwestern, Connecticut. They get Louisville, Wake Forest at home. It's just a solid schedule. They do have to go to Virginia, which should be an easy win as well, and then Pittsburgh at home to finish the year. So I see 8 wins there and 6.5. I think DraftKings has it for plus 130. So that's a solid bet.
A trio of plus money bets. Obviously, 2 of them are the same bet, but I love to hear that. So plus money bet on Duke over 6.5. And then we also have Florida State to make the playoff, which is plus 400 on FanDuel Sportsbook right now. And like we have NFL 20% off for life for any package you want at RPS. Make sure to sign up today. This offer will go away in under a week. So make sure to get in to all our college football information. Every sport we have is under that same umbrella too. 20% off for life. We'll get into the last Power 5 conference, and that is the Pac-12, home of the Heisman winner, Caleb Williams. And I don't know. Maybe I'm a hater. I don't see it with Caleb Williams. I'll say it right now. I'll go against the chalk and stuff. If he was that good, USC would be better. All right. And I know the defense is very rough for USC, but this is a top-heavy conference. Washington with Michael Penix Jr. This could be a fun conference. The last year of the Pac-12, baby. We get to have a blast with it. Bryce, I'll start with you. What do you think about Caleb Williams? Do you think he can repeat as the Heisman hopeful at plus 450?
I never like laying those big of odds on an individual player just because there's so much that can happen. Other players are obviously going to step up. He can have an off season. He can get hurt. That's not juice I wanted to lay. It goes back to the Florida State bet. We were looking to bet Jordan Travis to win the Heisman as well, like with Florida State, because if they do well, he has a very good chance to win it. And we decided against it simply because of what I do. I don't love to bet individual players to win the Heisman. I'd rather take like big long shots to do something like that. In terms of Caleb Williams, I mean, he's probably the best quarterback in football right now. It's kind of tough to go against him, but I think the Pac-12 is a little stronger this year than people give it credit for overall. There are some good teams in there. I think USC getting that wide receiver transfer from Arizona, I think it was Singer, is going to be big for him. Everyone wants to play with Caleb Williams. I think they're going to put up kind of video game numbers on offense, and it could be very fun DFS landscape.
Yeah, obviously Jordan Addison saw a dip in production going from Kenny Pickett to Caleb Williams. That's all I'll say. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, but Bruce, talk to me about the Pac-12 a little bit. I do want to have you dive into Washington because Penix, obviously he was very good at Indiana, got hurt, transfers over to Washington, and that team is incredible. I mean, they have an elite offense. Is the defense going to match up this year, and do they win the Pac-12?
Yeah, the defense is the big question. We have them on week 0 playing San Jose State, and yeah, they return a lot on defense. They bring in some guys in the transfer portal. They lost to Utah last year. Just looked horrible in doing so. I think Washington and Utah are their main competition this year in the Pac-12. I know a lot of people like Oregon, but I think Utah is still tough, especially if their quarterback's fine. But yeah, I think USC should be the favorite to win the conference if their defense is just okay. They don't need to do a ton just because their offense is so good. But yeah, they just need their defense to be all right. With Caleb Williams in there, they have like Bryce said, Dorian Singer comes over from Arizona. And, they have some good running backs. They brought in a guy from South Carolina as well. And they have a couple of freshman receivers that are just all world. So it'll be interesting to see in week 0 to see how good they are. I think Oregon State is kind of interesting with DJU. Now the quarterback there. And they also have one of the most underrated running backs in Damian Martinez, who we played on night slates a lot last year. I think he's going to be really good this year. Michael Penix at Washington has those good receivers there, and the offense is really fun to watch. So, those Pac-12 night slates are going to be a lot of fun this year.
Yeah, it definitely looks like it. And I do want to mention, like, Bo Nix, obviously Snyder. I don't know why, but I felt like Bo Nix was a Heisman frontrunner for a while last year. And I was just looking at it, and I'm like, man, he's also got, like, top 5 odds for the Heisman Trophy. Is Oregon going to be able to vie Snyder here? Do you think they're able to vie for a top 10 spot in the country, or are they going to fall flat similar to how they did last year?
That's definitely in the realm of I think it's definitely possible there. Bo next season could be in effect again this year. They got in Trayshawn Holden from Bama, receiver there to kind of help out things. I mean, Bo Nix put up some monster games for us last year. Definitely a guy to target in DFS this year again. I do kind of want to hit on Colorado a little bit. They got Coach Prime in there now. They've actually got some legit talent in there, I think. I think they're very, very thin. They need to, quote unquote, run pure on the injury standpoint, but they can stay healthy. I think like Shador Sanders is better than people say. They've got a bunch of like Denver Broncos, and he's been having a bunch of NFL players coming out there and kind of mentoring and teaching these guys. Russell Wilson was there with Shador a couple times this offseason. They've got some really good talent. Travis Hunter might be one of the top 5 best athletes in the country. A two-way player. They've got the number 1 defensive back from 2 years ago, and then they got the number 1 defensive back recruit last year. And I think it was Malachi Carter. I think they could definitely have a strong secondary. They got a bunch of transfers in there. I think like 47 new transfers in there, but I don't think they're going to do enough to like really compete this year. It'd be fun to watch. I think they're definitely a wild card with a lot of talent on the team.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a little bit of a different year for usual Pac-12 hopefuls. I mean, obviously UCLA is moving to the Big Ten next year, and they're going to be without DTR, who an absolute fantasy stud. Charbonnet is also on the Seahawks. So this offense seems really weak to me on paper as someone who hasn't really tracked the moves that they made in. Is UCLA literally just playing for next season? Are they punting this season, Snyder?
I think they're right there. I don't think they're going to be competing for the top tier, but I think they're definitely a mid-tier team. Possible like a top 3rd team, though. I think they're fine.
All right, perfect. And I was shocked to see this win total, and it was Stanford with a prop of 3. What has happened to Stanford football, Bruce? Why?
Oh, they're so bad. They're going to be so bad this year. I have them finishing last in the Pac-12. In a bad, the bottom of the Pac-12 is just really poor. So that says a lot. I don't think they're going to be a good team at all.
All right, that shocks me to hear. Usually I always associated Stanford to be on a level that was at least respectable, and clearly that will not be the case this year. Bryce, let's go ahead and get into our bet of the conference. What is your bet of the Pac-12?
I'm going to go with Washington to win the conference at plus 340. I just don't think there's a ton of value in USC right now. They're easily the most hyped team in what's a surprisingly strong top of the conference. USC, Oregon, Washington, and Utah are all very strong teams. And as Bruce said, the bottom of the conference is absolute trash, which might be why those teams get disregarded a bit. But I think the top of this conference can compete with a lot of teams around the country.
I love it. Another big time plus money bet, plus 340 for Washington to win the conference. Snyder, who is your bet of the Pac-12?
I'm actually going to the bottom of the conference there. I'm going to go with Colorado over 3.5 wins at plus 115. I think they can knock off Nebraska at home. And then there's a couple other easy games on the schedule. I think they can win 4 to 5 games pretty comfortably this year. I don't think they're going to compete or anything, but I think Coach Prime can get them a few more wins than they saw last year for sure.
I love it. I do like the fact that you just correlated your Nebraska under with the Colorado over. I gotta love that. I respect it completely. Bruce, who is your Pac-12 bet of the season?
I got Washington over 9.5. And I just their schedule is really soft. Boise State, Tulsa, they got to go at Michigan State, but that should be an easy win for them. California, Arizona, and it gets kind of tough with Oregon and Utah and at USC. But I like their schedule this year. I think they go over that total.
I love it. I love being on Washington, and that seems to sum up the Power 5 conferences. Is there any other team that you guys want to talk about? I got Tulane and UTSA kind of listed. I think they've both got votes or are ranked right now. Does anyone have anything to add about Tulane? And jump in if you do. I can't imagine all of you.
Yeah, I think Tulane's going to be good again this year. They lose Tajay Spears, but they return a lot of other pieces. I think Watt's kid is gone to the NFL, but other than that, they return their quarterback, who I know a lot of. I think it's Michael Pratt, just off the top of my head there, but he runs the football well, and I think he's a good player. We played him in DFS quite a bit when we weren't playing Spears, so I think they're the favorites to win their conference there. So I think they have a big year.
Perfect. All right, guys, we'll go into the best part of the show now. It is our bets of the season. So basically, we've kind of already done that with the Power 5, but I want to highlight our favorite bet from what we've done. Obviously, Bruce, I know yours and stuff, but I do want to hear which one was your guys' favorite. We got our Heisman picks. This can be dark horses or just regular. And then our playoff 4 with our national champion. Bryce, I'm going to start off with you. Out of all the bets that you named, which one was your favorite today?
Well, if you asked me this earlier in the year, I would have said Florida State to win the title. But I think the value in that has evaporated a bit. I'm going to go with Wisconsin over 8.5 wins, laying the minus 140 juice on it.
Awesome. Perfect. So Wisconsin over 8.5 is your favorite bet of the season right now, as of August 23rd. And who is your Heisman pick?
Heisman pick, I'm going to go with, I haven't bet any of them, and I kind of explained why I don't like betting them, but I will go with Jordan Travis.
I like it. It correlates a bunch. And one last thing, give me your playoff 4 with your national champion for this year.
Playoff 4, we're going to go with Georgia, Michigan, Bama, and Florida State.
Awesome. And who do you got as your champion?
Florida State.
All right. Yeah, you had to. You had to back the team that you got 30-1 for.
Got to.
Perfect. Snyder, I'll go to you next. What was your favorite bet of the season?
Probably Penn State over 9.5 wins. I think I like that. And I'll correlate that with my Heisman deep long shot. But I think Nick Singleton at 80-1 has some validity there. If they can go on that run and beat Michigan or Ohio State and make the playoffs, and he puts out a huge year, definitely think he could be there in New York, and you can have some hedging opportunities at least.
I love the dark horse candidate there. I love that Nick Singleton, obviously, you guys mentioned his talent last year, and it looks like he's going to be able to get the keys to that offense. What is your playoff for, and who's your national champion, Snyder?
Yeah, I think there's like legitimately 7-8 teams that can make the playoffs. I'm gonna go Bama, USC. I'm gonna go Penn State, and then I think it's a coin flip between FSU and Texas. I'll throw FSU in there. I think Bama's going to win the title this year. I think Nick Saban's coming on a revenge tour, is rolling through the CFB landscape this year.
Awesome. Perfect. And Bruce, we'll finish out with you. What was your favorite bet of the season? I know the answer, but we'll get the answer out in public.
Yeah, it's pretty close between Vandy minus 3.5 or over 3.5 and Duke over 6.5. Those are my two best bets. If I had to pick one, I'd pick Vandy over 3.5. Heisman winner. I'm going to pick a dark horse candidate as well. I kind of like Joe Milton plus 2,200 there, and why not pick a quarterback that's on a good team with a good offense that could throw for a ton of yards in that offense. So I like Joe Milton just taking a chance. I don't like playing these plus 450 for Caleb Williams. That's kind of crazy. Jaden Daniels plus 1,100 is crazy too. So why not take a shot there?
Perfect. And who's your playoff for with your national champion?
I like Alabama, Michigan, USC, and Texas. And I have Michigan winning it all.
All right, perfect. 3 different title picks from 3 different people. As you guys know way more college football than me, but I do want to input my Heisman pick that I bet just recently, and that is the best wide receiver in football, and that is Marvin Harrison Jr. I love the 30-1 odds you get on FanDuel. He's 20-1 on DraftKings, so get that extra value on FanDuel. I just think that his talent is just elite. If Ohio State does the things, to make them special, if they make it to the playoff, I think Harrison's going to have a huge part in it. And I think he puts up historic numbers. And I know, and Jigba did a lot of his work in that Rose Bowl game that made his stats look really glorified late on in the year. I think Harrison paces those stats and more. And as long as he stays healthy, I think he's going to be able to get to New York at the very least. So, yeah, I love doing this show with you guys. It is time. It is already 5 o'clock. And you heard the best bets here. NFL 20% off for life. Make sure you guys join in. It's every sport. It's not just college football. And everyone, have a great rest of y'all's day. And good luck this season.